Welcome, everyone. It's really good to see all of you. Today, I'm really excited to introduce David Hassan from the Israel Center for Conservative Judaism. And I'm Dr. Laura Cohen. I'm the executive director here at the Harriet and Kenneth Kupferberg Holocaust Center. We're really grateful for you to come today to acknowledge Rabbi Isidoro Aizenberg's contribution to the center, which is incredible. I think one of the things I've always appreciated about the KHC is the continuity and the legacy between past and present and all of the people who contributed to this center to make it what it is today. And Rabbi Aizenberg was a huge part of that. And it's on behalf of your temple that you provided this generous donation that allows us to fund our annual Yom HaShoah commemorations as well as internships for students. And tomorrow I'd like to welcome all of you either in person or online. We're doing our next Yom HaShoah commemoration. It'll feature Dr. Oren Steyer. He'll be talking about the state of Holocaust education today. I wanted to thank you, David. It's been wonderful and quite a pleasure to collaborate with you over the years. I wanted to also welcome everyone who's coming in and to acknowledge President Christine Mangino of the college and also Vice President Stephen DiDio. He's VP of Strategy, as well as Saji Suraji, who's in charge of institutional advancement. I want to acknowledge the contribution of the KHC's longtime Associate Director. Her name is Marissa Hollywood. And it's also a real honor to have Dr. Arthur Flug here, who I don't even know where to begin to express my gratitude. And the work that we do here absolutely is a result of all the work that you did to put the center together, to fundraise, and to really build this community. Thank you so much. And I'd like to now introduce you, David. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. I don't usually need a mic, but so thank you, Laura. Appreciate it. So thank you all for coming. As you can imagine, I wrote a few thank yous, a little thing that I want to get to. But before I do, I wrote down, I wanted to mention a couple of things about the Kupferberg Center. One main thing. In this day and age, in the times we live in, especially now, and especially at this time of year, the beginning of Yom HaShoah, the Kupferberg Center, their work is really ever important, and it's worthy of your attention and your support. I just want to mention that. So please consider anything you can do to support the center. Visit it, do what you can to support it, and spread the word. It's worth it. Thank you for listening to that little two-word promotion, which I think is absolutely important and necessary. Okay, so just real quick, first I want to thank everybody for coming here. That's the main thing. But I do want to mention a few people who helped make this event possible, so I'm just going to get into it real quick. Years ago, and I'm not sure how many years ago, but I can tell you it was before COVID, upon the passing of Rabbi Isidoro Aizenberg, I brought to the board of directors at ICCJ the idea about doing something to honor the rabbi and Edna. I felt that the most suitable honor would be to create a fund that would remember and continue his work at Kupferberg Center. After speaking to a few people at ICCJ, everyone agreed this was a great idea. So the first group of people I want to thank is ICCJ and the board of directors. They not only passed the resolution, but they were very enthusiastic about it. So that was number one. Of course, this had to be agreed to, so the next task was to present this to the Kupferberg Center, right? Which I did, and as you can imagine, they also were very enthusiastic to honor both Rabbi and Edna, which not only included it setting up and publicizing a fund, but to also place a plaque in honor of them both, which is why we're here today also. The fund was set up and put to use immediately, as you'll soon see. I think we have a little short on what's going to happen, but it was put to use immediately. The plaque was a different story, of course. Usually, these things take some time, but the fact that COVID came right in the middle of the process set the timeline back even further. That said, through the sole perseverance, and I really mean this, the sole perseverance of the directors of Kupferberg Center, the plaque was installed last year, and it was the impetus for us being here today. So, therefore, I want to thank the Kupferberg Center for, one, agreeing to the fund, two, persevering as it relates to the plaque installation, and three, following through on the events of the fund each year, as again, you'll soon see. Specifically, I want to thank Dr. Laura Cohen, who is nothing but a pleasure to work and speak with, and was kind enough to put a small program for us together here today. Thank you very much, Laura. Appreciate it. I'd also like to mention, as Dr. Cohen did, Marissa Hollywood, who I worked with pretty closely over those years, but she's no longer working at the center, but she was a very large part of this process, and I want to thank her as well. Next, many of you are going from here to ICCJ for a small social gathering. Everybody's welcome after this presentation. There will be some refreshments for all. So therefore, I'd like to thank ICCJ's president, Lisa Wallner, for ensuring this event, this part of the event at ICCJ, and for being so kind in the process. Also to Sisterhood, who did the usual shopping and setup for the gathering. So thank you to them too. Last, I'd like to thank Helena at the office and the rest of the administrative staff at ICCJ for creating the flyer, taking reservations, and keeping me informed along the way. And again, thank you all for coming. I'd like to ask Arthur to come up and say a few words. Most important, Arthur is who he is, and we all love him dearly for personal and everything else. But Arthur was also very instrumental in Dr. Aizenberg and Rabbi Aizenberg being here doing the work he did to begin with anyway. So it's very fitting that he come up and say a few words. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you. A little bit of a history lesson. In 2009, when I became the director of the Holocaust Center, the Holocaust Center was 2 large rooms in the basement of the library. And I met with Dr. Eduardo Marti, who was the president then, and he said, you have a background. My background was I was chief of staff to the chair of the New York City Finance Committee. I was chief of staff to U.S. congressmen. I was a principal, and he said, you know everybody, I want you to get people in here. So I looked around, and I said, how do you get people in here? And Rabbi Aizenberg came to mind. And I said, I'd like to set up an exhibit. And I said, when you say Holocaust, I don't want people to say, oh, he's showing me another concentration camp. He's showing me pictures. What I'd like is something different. And he said the word Sosua. Sosua was a banana plantation in the Dominican Republic that housed Jews who had escaped from Germany. And we set that up in the basement, in the 2 rooms we had. And we did a targeted mailing, not only to members of the Jewish community, but to members of the Dominican community. And we received a call from the office of the Dominican ambassador to the United States saying he was going to attend. Terrific. We suddenly realized that so many people were coming, we couldn't hold it in the 2 small rooms in the basement. It was a beautiful day like today. We had it in the plaza right in front of the entrance to the administration building. One of the things we also did with every exhibit, we put together a catalog, which is a story of the exhibit. After the first exhibit, I said, Rabbi, you want to do another one? And he said, yes. Well, we want to do another one lasted for 9 years and resulted in 14 exhibits. And the creation of this, this used to be a plot of grass. Back there used to be the school's mail office. We now have it at a Holocaust Center. But one of the things about Rabbi Aizenberg was he was so creative. Everything he did had this magical touch to it. And when at the end of 9 years, when he left, we sat down and I took out some accounting records and invoices and found out that during his role as the scholar in residence, he had produced 14 exhibits with a total of over 200,000 catalogs that were distributed to the people who came here and to people all over the United States in different colleges, universities, schools, and organizations. He made this place a success. But my favorite story that I'd like to share with you about Rabbi Aizenberg is a very personal one. About 2 years into his being here, he came in one day to the office and he said, Arthur, I want to speak to you. I have a problem. I said, okay, sit down. And I'm saying to myself, what's his problem? Whenever he did an exhibit, there was never a discussion about how much we would pay you. We talked, and whatever you wanted, that was it. They were of that quality. There wasn't a talk about your hours, because he came and went as he pleased. And I said, Rabbi, what's your problem? He says, Arthur, you're my problem. And I said, really, what do I do? What do I do? And he said, every day when I came into the office, I say, good morning, Arthur, and you say, good morning, Rabbi. I said, yeah, so what's the problem? He said, the problem is my name is not Rabbi. My name is Yehoshua. I want you to call me Yehoshua. And I said, I can't. And he said, what do you mean you can't? And I said, Rabbi, I was born in 1938, lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan till about a year or two after the end of World War II. Yiddish was spoken in the house. I went to elementary school, public school, but after public school, I went to what we call Hebrew school today. It was called Cheder, and it was Monday to Thursday, 3:30 to 6, and Sundays, 9 to 12. Only boys. There were no girls there. And we learned about dealing with rabbis. And the one thing we learned about dealing with rabbis is when the rabbi walked into the classroom, you stopped what you were doing, you stood up. And you stood there silently at attention till the rabbi went like this. Or he said, sit down. I said, but one thing they never taught us was how to address a rabbi, because it was inconceivable that anybody would have the audacity and bad manners to call a rabbi by their first name. And he started rolling his eyes, and he said, Arthur, this is the 21st century. You're no longer in the ghetto, and I promise you, if you call me Yehoshua, which is my name, he said, if you call me Yehoshua, I promise you will be not excommunicated from the Jewish religion. So I took a deep breath. I said, okay, only with you. Now, in this job, you meet a lot of rabbis. They call from their synagogues. They want to bring their classes here. They want you to come and speak. They want materials. Everyone I meet up until today, it's hello, Rabbi. Whether it's a man there, Yehoshua was the only one. And I found that to be such a warm and wonderful offer of friendship. Thank you.
Okay, Laura, do you want to show a few things, or? Yeah, okay.
So on the screen, we've been playing or been showing slides of all of the exhibitions that Rabbi Aizenberg curated. And there's also interspersed with that pictures of events that took place here, as well as posters of the last several events for Yom HaShoah. And then it was very bright in here, so we put the shades down. But if you look to my right, there is outside a wall of remembrance, and that's where the plaque is. And there's many different plaques there. And it's a great honor to have the plaque here for the Aizenbergs. And again, thank you so much for coming here. I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of this community, and thank you so much to everyone at Queensborough Community College. It's a joy and a pleasure. And Marissa, you're here. Thank you for joining. Would you like to come up, because you're a huge part of this?
Hello. 12:01 I got here, and everyone's already spoken. How are you? I had a feeling that if I ended up coming, I might have to speak. So as I was driving here, I was trying to think about things. My name is Marissa Hollywood, Dr. Marissa Hollywood now, since I've left. Thank you. So when I started here in 2012, Rabbi Isidoro was the scholar in residence. And so periodically, I would assist him with like image, copyright, usage rights, things like that. And it's so funny, Dr. Fluke's story, because that's what I kept thinking about. Very quickly, he asked me to call him Yehoshua. And I was like, I had never been friends with a rabbi before, and that felt very wrong. And so it was the same kind of thing. I worked really hard to call him Yehoshua when I spoke to him directly, but always referred to him as Rabbi Aizenberg. But the thing for me that's funny about it is that he navigated so many different roles so beautifully. Like being a rabbi was such a part of his life all the time, but also just being such a good person. He just would wear so many hats. And I think about at one point when he had started, I was going through like a personal thing, and I had talked to him, and he just so beautifully was able to give me this like personal advice and just like being a good person, kind of support and empathy, as well as the rabbinical kind of oversight, and it was wonderful. But I didn't really know Edna very well, and she's of course such an important part of this. But I have to share this one story that I think of with her. After Rabbi Eisenberg curated each exhibition, we would have an opening here in this space, and sometimes Edna would come. And on this one particular event, Dr. Flug was still here, he was the director, and we were sitting here in these seats, which are fine, you know, maybe not the most comfortable, but they're fine seats. And on this particular day, one of our longtime big donors was in attendance, BB, and Dr. Flug pulled out one of the fancy cushioned chairs from our conference room and put it right in front for her. She was elderly, she was fine. It was just to make her feel very special right in the front row. And Edna saw this and insisted that we get her one of those chairs and put it right in the front. And I remembered it because I was like, that's a bold move. And I'm always very impressed by someone that advocates for herself. She wasn't well at the time, and I'm sure it felt more comfortable than this, but we had two queens in residence that day, and I knew where Edna stood. So even though I didn't know her, I feel like, and I'm based on your reactions, I think that was indicative of her personality. No? Yeah. She was right there front and center. It was always such a pleasure working with Rabbi Aizenberg. He was the best public speaker. He was so excited about everything he was talking about. A lot of gesturing, right? I think you could see it probably from some of these pictures. Like, I think every picture I have, he's gesturing wildly. And yeah, I'm so glad, I was so grateful to work with David on this donation and to find a way to really recognize them. And I think that this project was the perfect thing, because in perpetuity, there'll be scholarly lectures where where both of them are referenced. And that was really what he was about. And I think that was the best thing. And of course, him being on our wall also. So he's always kind of looking here, thinking of Sosua. So now I'm at City College, and we just had a class of students in the Jewish Studies program go to Sosua to research that history. And I contacted Barana, and I had them send a case of catalogs, which they all took with them and researched with them. So his memory is living on in many ways. So thank you for...
I think that's it. Thank you.
It's so good to see you.
Okay, so I think that's it. Anybody that wants to go and take refreshments, you're welcome to ICCJ, please. I do recommend you go outside and take a look at the plaque. It's why we're here, so it'd be very nice. And thank you all for coming, really, very much.